Final hour overdrive continues. TSN 1050 up on TSN 2. Brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan. We have a final in Oakland. The Athletics beating the Blue Jays 5-2. So Jays took 2 of 3 in Colorado. They've taken 2 of 3 in Oakland. But what really matters is Davis Schneider hit another home run.
Yeah.
He had another home run. He had 2 walks today.
Keeping the mustache.
He's keeping the mustache. I am clear, man. He had that double last night in the 7th. He had a home run today, a couple of walks.
You're fine.
I'm off the hook. My questioning from yesterday.
Are they going to KC now, or they got one more there?
No, they've got Kansas City next, and then they've got, who do they have after that? It's another awful team. I can't remember.
Keep
then
winning. That's the thing.
Is it the 4-pack against Texas after that at home? Yeah, then you get the 4-pack against the Rangers,
which is
what
pivotal. That's your playoffs right there.
Texas is imploding. Like they lost 14-1 last night. You see Altuve had
Houston.
Altuve had 3 home runs in the first 3 innings last night.
Yeah.
Like that is a ridiculous statistic. He had a cycle a week ago. Yeah. Altuve had a cycle a week ago, and now he hit 3 home runs in 3 innings. That's just incredible.
They're not stealing signs.
Maybe there's a garbage can being knocked
around in the background there.
Possibly. I mean,
those guys winning again.
Them.
I think that's all honestly nonsense.
Well, it's not nonsense that it happened. They cheated. They were cheating. It took place. But you're right. They redeemed themselves last year significantly. They went out and won a World Series. Clean.
Yeah.
Allegedly. We believe, right? There's no reason to believe that there was any nefarious actions taking place. But Texas sucks, man. They're a mess. And if the Jays can just keep their head above water and take at least 3 or 4 in that Rangers series, I think they're going to be in a good place. In fact, I fully expect they will be. There's no one chasing them. The Red Sox aren't legitimately chasing.
How many in KC? 4 or 3?
It's a 3-pack.
Oh, I'd love a 4-pack in KC and just dummy them every game.
Yeah.
Because KC sucks.
KC does, but so does Oakland, so does Colorado, right? Like it's calling for a sweep. It's baseball still. Like it doesn't matter how bad a team is. Even the worst team is going to win every 3 games.
Yeah, that's
right.
True.
The worst team in baseball is still going to win like 50 games. So take that for what it's worth. And I think if you get a couple of wins against Kansas City, you come home again, focus on that Texas series, take care of business at home, you're probably home free. You have a bunch of games coming up against the Yankees, a team that you should be able to take advantage of. Baltimore, if they take their foot off the pedal. Yeah. Tampa, if they take their foot off the pedal.
Anything scare you, though? Like, is there any scenario that scares you other than them just not playing well? Like, is there a team that you're like...
Well, all of them scare me. Yeah. Going to Kansas City scares me. Texas waking up against Toronto scares me. Yankees with nothing to play for scares me. Baltimore with the idea of taking their foot off the gas probably won't happen. It scares me. It all scares me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, these injuries were scaring me. Still do. You know, Bichette, Chapman, Jansen. Like, those are big injuries.
Yeah.
That's the left side of your infield, and you're basically your everyday catcher. Like, Jansen's been better than Kirk all year.
Yeah.
And... you know, that's probably going to catch up at some point. It wasn't going to against Colorado and Oakland because those teams are so bad. And Davis Schneider is doing what he's doing. Vladdy's been better. There's been a number of guys who have stood up when they had to. But at some point, like if Bichette doesn't return to 100%, if Chapman doesn't return to 100%, and Jansen I don't think is going to return.
Doesn't matter.
It's tough, man. It's tough to overcome injuries like that. For that, you can get on a heater early and overcome it quickly, but 10 games in, 15 games in, at some point, I think people are going to realize, man, these guys are, like, these are big holes in the lineup. Yeah. But still, listen, you got 2 of 3 in Oakland. Would a sweep have been better? Obviously. But you got 4 of 6 against 2 of the worst teams in the league on the road. You'll take it. You're in a playoff spot.
Yeah, you just got to figure, you got to just chip away. That's what you got to do.
Well, tonight, Texas, Houston, it's Scherzer versus Verlander.
2 big names.
Absolutely. Former teammates in New York, teammates in Detroit, 2 studs, future Hall of Famers, 2 of the great pitchers of the modern era going up against each other. Both guys, I believe, over the age of 40. So we'll see. We'll see what comes of it tonight. All right, so back into the Jays a little bit later this hour. We got Sarah Nurse coming up. She is signed with the Toronto team for the Canadian women's hockey, or the PWHL, I should say. So we'll catch up with Sarah in about 25 minutes from Jerry's After Dark a little bit later on. Robert Turbin coming up here in a moment. Former teammate of our boy Luke Wilson.
Yeah.
And the NFL season beginning tomorrow night. Travis Kelce, he's out of the woods in terms of a long-standing injury. We talked about it at 4 o'clock. Yeah, I don't see why you'd play him tomorrow night. But the nature of the NFL, we'll ask Robert this. You know, how do the players police this kind of stuff? Like within the locker room, when you only play 17 games, if he's capable of playing, does he play?
That environment is, you're putting me in. You've got to play me, which is crazy to think.
That's probably a better way to approach it. Like, forget what his teammates are thinking. What is Travis Kelce saying right now? Like, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the 3 or 4 greatest tight ends of all time. He's won multiple Super Bowls. He doesn't have to prove anything tomorrow night.
And you said it best, Hayes. It's 17. It's not hockey where it's 82.
Right.
It's like he wants to get in there, but you got to be thinking, are you going to risk it? I don't know.
Well, let's go to a man that would be familiar with, battling in the NFL. Longtime NFL running back, NFL Network analyst. Here's Robert Turbin. How you doing, Robert?
What's up, fellas? I'm doing well. How about yourself?
We're doing very well. We're jacked for tomorrow night, and we were just talking about Travis Kelce and his situation, and you're probably the perfect guy to ask, a guy who's been in the room a lot. I'm sure you dealt with your fair amount of injuries throughout your career. If he is given the green light to play tomorrow night, do you think Kelce's going to be on the field, and what kind of performance would you expect to see out of him?
Well, I don't think he'll be on the field. It'd be wise for the Chiefs to keep him out. I mean, obviously you want to get off to a good start to the season, and you got a tough team in the Detroit Lions, nobody that you can sleep on. But listen, Kansas City Chiefs, man, they're a good team. A lot of quality players on both sides of the football, a lot of guys who are familiar with this system, familiar with Patrick Mahomes and the way that they want to do with their offensive scheme. And so, I mean, it's tough to not have Kelce out there just because he presents so much attention. But, you'd rather play it safe than sorry. The most important games for the Kansas City Chiefs are going to come after, weeks 8 and 9, okay, when they start to battle for playoff position and those sorts of things. But if he does play, I think he's going to be Travis. I mean, obviously he'll be a little limpy, but he'll still have an impact on the game if he plays. But I would sit him out.
What about across the field, Robert? Do you think the Lions, for the first time in a long time, are the real deal Holyfield?
That's a good one. I do. I think that I think they're the truth. I think they're the truth. Earlier in the offseason, I thought, man, they probably win the North. To be honest with you, probably win the NFC North. I'm a little bit hesitant in that choice now.
Mm-hmm.
But if they can build off how they finished the season last year, they're certainly going to be, one of the top teams in that division and one of the top teams in the NFC.
Well, wow. we talk about Dan Campbell all the time, and
go ahead, explain to him your thought process.
Listen, my take on this, Robert, and I'd love to get your take on this. Is I like Dan Campbell, the guy. I like what he represents. I like his attitude, his approach, but I feel like that type of coach, a guy who's doing push-ups with the boy, it's like he still wants to be a player. At some point, that wears thin. At some point, the actual players look at Dan Campbell and say, we're on the field, not you. And I'm not sure if his approach is going to be conducive to winning. Where are you at with Dan Campbell and his whole persona and the idea that he can be the guy to finally change the reputation of the Detroit Lions?
So would you say the same thing about Mike Vrabel in Tennessee with the Titans?
I don't think Vrabel is as crazy.
Thank you for saying that, Robert. Thank you for saying that.
He does his push-ups.
Does he?
He does his his gassers at the end of practice with the players.
Okay.
How about Pete Carroll? Let's go years later. Let's go a lot older. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
He saw the video earlier in the offseason playing quarterback.
Yeah.
And he's playing scout team quarterback against the defense, right? The players love that, man. We want a coach that is active and energetic and passionate about what they're doing and display it. I take the worst in Bill Belichick. Okay, that's the stuff that wears thin. You know what I mean?
Man, he's got a lot of rings, though, Robert. He got a lot of rings, man.
Now without that quarterback,
Ooh.
That's right,
Robert.
Robert.
Last time
Thank
I
you
checked,
for weighing in. Thank you very
last time
much.
I checked, Jared Goff wasn't Tom Brady, though.
Very true. Jared Goff is not Tom Brady, but a very formidable quarterback, a quarterback who has been, in big games and has been in the Super Bowl before. So my point is, as a player, you like a coach that is really engaged. You want a coach that has the energy, the seriousness, and the separation and ways thin. How about the Raiders right now? With Chandler Jones, right, and his beef with his head coach. When you don't have a guy that you can feel like you can relate with or relate to, that relationship, I think, wears thin a little bit faster than somebody not only has the passion and the energy, but has been through the exact same things you've gone through as a player. So I think he's doing great.
All right. We'll see, man.
By the way, last point, I mean, the Detroit Lions haven't been doing anything successful since Jim Caldwell.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Because that's what you want to say about, Dan Campbell, but everybody else that they tried to put in there struck out. And, at least he's getting on base.
I
tried to explain that earlier.
I mean, they were
again.
9-8. They didn't make the playoffs last year. Like, let's see what they do here. It's not like he's got a 13-4 record last year, and they went to the
100%.
championship game.
100%. 9-8 though is a lot better than what they've been doing historically. 3 and whatever, 4 and whatever. Right? You get a winning record that in your first season in Detroit. You find a way to get over 500 in Detroit in your first season?
Mm-hmm.
Man, come on, man. You deserve a lot of credit for that.
All right.
What about the first season for Aaron Rodgers with the Jets?
I think the Jets go to the AFC Championship game, fellas. I'll be honest. I know there's a lot of hype around the team. I get it. There's a lot of hype around the team, and they're getting a lot of attention. You got the Hard Knocks and and all that can spell a huge dud, right? A huge flat tire, at the end of the day. But I don't see it with the Jets, and I'm not a hype man at all. Seattle, that's the team I played for, and everybody just assumes like I'm a Seattle homer. No, I am not. Okay, I'm not that invested, and I don't care that much. Okay, I just try to give a real perspective of what I truly believe. And when it comes to the Jets, this is just what I truly believe. I truly believe that the team is legitimately going to be one of the best teams in the AFC. You're going to have to see them, and they're going to have to see other teams too. But this team, for me, it is for real. And it does stem a lot around the fact that they have Aaron Rodgers. Who were the Tampa Bay Buccaneers before Tom Brady stepped in there and won the Super Bowl? I'm not saying that that's what Aaron Rodgers is going to do, but from a skill set, from a greatness standpoint, that is what Aaron Rodgers brings to your team. You are automatically so much better with him as your starting quarterback. Obviously, we know what surrounds the team as far as skilled players in the defense. And so for me, I got them as one of the top 3 teams in the AFC. Kansas City, Cincinnati. I think you got to throw the New York Jets in right there.
Wow. So you got them ahead of the Bills.
Yeah.
You got them ahead of the Bills.
Wow.
I think the Bills, I like the Bills a lot. It remains to be seen about the Bills. I'm concerned about the Bills because I'm concerned about their chemistry and their relationship right now between one another, okay? Like, obviously they have some rocky parts of the offseason, and since that time, it's since then been quote-unquote mended. But fellas, I've been in the locker room where it was like, oh, everything is all good. But then we're out there playing like, we're not playing like the team that that you saw before. And as soon as something goes wrong, because something's going to go wrong all the time for every team during the season, then who are the Bills going to be? Because that's the part that I'm concerned about. And where's the real leadership? Does Josh Allen really lead the team? I don't think so. I don't think so. Just because he's the best player doesn't make him the leader, okay? You got a guy like Von Miller, but he's never really been a vocal leader on any team that he's been on. So who's the guy that keeps the troops in line? The Bills, to me, don't have that. They don't have that in their head coach, and Sean McDermott. And so I'm concerned, okay, about their chemistry once they face some adversity this season. And because of that, I think they take a step back this year.
We're chatting with Robert Turbin, former NFLer, NFL Network analyst. I'm curious your take on the Broncos situation where there's so much focus on Russell Wilson, and we all know the season he had last year, and there's a lot of pressure on him to redeem himself. Yet I look at Sean Payton, and I'm curious why no one is suggesting, or at least I haven't heard this conversation, that Payton's got to prove he can win without Drew Brees. Like you just mentioned Belichick and everything he did with Brady. Payton's best was when Brees was at his best. So shouldn't there be some pressure on Payton to prove that he can win without Drew Brees?
Yeah, I think you actually have a valid point right there because, if you compare like Sean Payton with a guy like Mike McCarthy, they both have one Super Bowl. Their regular season win-loss records are pretty similar. Yet we see Sean Payton as this guru offensively, and we see Mike McCarthy as like this guy that we're unsure about as a head coach. And so, I think your point is valid. With that being said, I do think that Sean Payton is certainly going to have a much more positive impact than Hackett did last season. And he does have something to prove. But I think the Broncos are going to be better. Are they going to make the playoffs? I had them making the playoffs earlier in the offseason, but with the injury to Jerry Jeudy and some of the other things that are going on with the team, the newness of the offense, everything like that, all the Broncos have to do is be above 500 for this season to be successful. If they go 8-9, it's another dud. It's another disappointment, and it's going to be a lot of scrutiny on the team that's well-deserved. But if they go 9-8, just that one little difference, I think you can come away with the season like, okay, you can exhale and say, okay, I think Russell's going to be cool with the team. The first season with Sean Payton, yada, yada, yada. I think the team's going to be fine. So I think that spells a successful season for the Broncos, going 9-8 or better.
Do you think a guy like Payton already knows what Russ is going to bring to the table? Like, do you think he already knows if he's going to stink the joint out or he's going to be way better than last year? Do you think a guy that's been around the game that long and as smart as he is already knows what's coming from Russ?
Absolutely. Yeah, coaches have a pretty good indication on players and what they bring to the table pretty early. Now, they're not always accurate. They're not always on point. Sometimes you miss on guys. Sometimes a guy surprises you, right? Mm-hmm. But, for the most part, coaches have a pretty good idea of, figuring out who you are and what you're going to be able to bring to the table, how they're going to be able to best utilize you. But I think week 2 of the preseason was the biggest indication that we got. A lot of question marks were surrounding the Broncos and Russell Wilson as far as, him playing into the third quarter in the first preseason game. And everybody's like, whoa, why is that, right? And then we sort of expected the same thing week 2, but we saw Russell Wilson on the bench after the first series. That, to me, was an indication that, okay, we're going to be fine. And Russell actually showed some, got out of the pocket, boom, used his feet, got a first down, a couple completions, right? He played well, in that first series. Didn't light the stat sheet up, all right, but he played well enough for Sean Payton to be like, all right, our guy's good. Let's move on. Let's get ready for the regular season. And I don't even think we saw him in week 3 at all. So I think yes, to answer your question, coaches do have they can foresee what they're going to get out of a player, and as it pertains to Russ specifically, I think Coach Sean Payton sees a lot of positives coming from him heading into the regular season.
With Robert Turbin, we spent a lot of time talking about the AFC naturally because of the star power, right? The quarterbacks. Tomorrow night it's going to be Mahomes and the Chiefs at home. We talked about the Bills. We talked about Rodgers. Now we're talking Denver. On the NFC side of things, it feels like a foregone conclusion the Eagles are just going to dominate. Do you see that being the case, Robert? And if it's not going to be the Eagles, who do you see in the NFC pushing them?
The Eagles are certainly the best team on paper right now. They got great leadership. They got great leadership everywhere, really. Great organization. Obviously, they're still going to be at the top of the NFC to me. Now, the team that could potentially knock them off, obviously, you got to look at the 49ers. I don't think the 49ers are going to do it this year. I'm looking at the Seahawks. And I get it. I know it sounds like a homer thing, okay? But trust me, it's not. Last year, I had the Seahawks winning 7 of 9 games and potentially being a wild card team. Turns out that I was right. But I didn't think they were going to be all that good. But this year, it's totally different. I mean, you think about the Seahawks and, how this offseason has been for them. It's been pretty much status quo. And the only real hiccup that they had was Devin Witherspoon had a little small holdout at the start of training camp. I think it only lasted a day or two. Then he signed his deal, and he was back. But other than that, everybody has stayed relatively healthy. And the guys that were injured, Jordan Brooks, Jamal Adams, are actually off the PUP list and ready to go when the team gives them the go-ahead to go. And that's the spot that you want to be. Now, you got a little bit of a hurdle with Jackson Smith and Jigba, the rookie. He's got the wrist, but he's playing in week 1, all right? So he's ready to go. As opposed to the 49ers where, Brock Purdy, who's your starting quarterback, and only in his second year, had no offseason. Very limited. He came in like week 2 of training camp, right, and started playing then. Looked pretty good in the preseason when he got his opportunity, but still, the preseason at the end of the day, it ain't the real deal. Nick Bosa just signed today, all right? But I think the fact that he hasn't been there is going to impact his production, especially at the start of the season, and the team overall. So I think it spells for a slow start for the 49ers, and I think the Seattle Seahawks can take advantage of that. And to be honest with you, I think, in a lot of ways, Seattle are better than some of the other teams in the NFC except the Eagles. That'll be the big challenge. If you ask me my prediction right now, I got the Eagles and the Seahawks in the NFC Championship game.
Ooh, love it.
Before we get you out of here, what's the dumbest thing you've ever seen Luke Wilson do?
That's funny. That's a good question right there. Luke is certainly a character, as you guys know. I don't know. I mean, I can't think of anything that comes off the top of mind. I know he used to come out and practice, and they used to do the techno thing, and he used to, wear the high shorts, and it's just Luke. It's just Luke being douchey, man. Like you just never knew what you were gonna get. Like,
yeah, he's douchey, man. That's just a great way to sum it up.
That's what he is. That's our guy, man. And if you're high on the Seahawks, he'll come in here tomorrow and probably say they're going 17-0. He loves the Seahawks every week. He's like, I'm telling you, Pete Carroll, he'll be ready.
So
yep.
He's the homer. I'm not.
Okay, right? I got you.
I'm just honest with my taste. That's
okay,
all it is.
I like it. We love it. It's been great having you on, Robert. We got to do it again throughout the season, man. We really appreciate you doing this. Thank you.
Anytime, fellas. Anytime.
You got it. Robert Turbin, former NFLer, NFL Network analyst.
Oof.
Man,
that was
good
takes
stuff.
there. He's got some
he's
takes.
Great. Listen. He's wrong. The Lions and the Jets cannot coexist in this universe, both as successful football teams.
Man, did he make you look stupid when he made those comments?
No, he didn't.
We had just finished.
We'll see, man. We haven't played a game yet.
I know. We just finished the 500, and he said both of those teams are top dogs.
Although you notice he kind of walked off the cliff with the Lions. He's like, I'm not as certain anymore. My take on Campbell is I stand by that.
You challenged him on the Bills, and he had no problem saying, yeah, Jets over Bills.
Yeah, and the Dolphins. We didn't mention the Dolphins, but like that's a really interesting angle, and Bills fans are going to be terrified to hear that. Like players saying that, like something's up there in the room.
It's bang on, dude. It's bang on because you know what? Everybody says, yeah, it's all good, but when you see when it's really at, the first sign of adversity.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just like a team that says, yeah, we're not going to take stupid penalties. We're over that. As soon as they get into a chippy game, they don't know how to react, and they just take stupid penalties.
Yep.
So you're going to see how that machine is once they face some adversity.
Well, listen, the Bills, since Brady left, they've owned the AFC East. Like, it would not be shocking, especially in the NFL with so much parity and so much turnover, if they finally had a year where they took a step back. I don't think that step back is 6 or 7 wins, but is it 9 and they miss? Oof. It's possible. Like there's so much talent. Like I'm not predicting that. What I'm saying is if they went 9-8 and they missed, I don't think you could say that's shocking. Like if the Eagles miss, that would be shocking.
Right.
Even with the injuries, Kansas City missing the playoffs, I think would be shocking. Bills are in tough, man. Jets are good. Dolphins are good. There's a lot of good teams in the AFC.
Right.
All right. Sarah Nurse coming up. She's one of the 3 players that has signed now for the Toronto team in the Professional Women's Hockey League. There's a bunch of signings going on league-wide. Sarah obviously is from the area. She can be a Toronto star.
A little skin in the game as far as the naming of the team.
Good question, because they haven't revealed any of that yet.
Should she be a leader?
Absolutely.
Star in the league? Like
she'll be the face of this team, I think. Her, Renata Fast.
But it'd be nice for her to be like, I want to help name the team.
Let's see if she's got any takes on that.
All right.
We'll catch up with Sarah. We'll get to Jerry's After Dark still to come. Our best bets brought to you by FanDuel as well. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, our best bets brought to you by FanDuel later in the hour. Try to slide in some Jerry's After Dark as well. All right, we get some time. Time. And the NFL season starting tomorrow. We've got NHL camps right around the corner, NBA camps right around the corner. And not far beyond that, the PWHL is going to get kickstarted. It's been a wild week with, different signings throughout the league. The original 6 were announced. Last week was a big, big week for women's hockey. And the Toronto team, one of the 6 teams, each team is effectively going to sign 3 players. Right. They're going to sign 3 players to longer-term contracts. Those will likely be the faces of each respective organization. Right. There's going to be free agency. There's going to be drafts. But one of the 3 signed to the Toronto team is Sarah Nurse.
Yes.
And Sarah was nice enough to join us, and here she is. This is really big news, Sarah. Congratulations.
Hi, guys. Thank you.
Yes. So take us through the process. Obviously, it's been a whirlwind, I'm sure, in the women's hockey world the last couple of months, and certainly last week with the big announcement. How did this come together where, you're one of 3 players signing with the Toronto team?
Yeah, I am completely honored and grateful to be one of the players signed for the Toronto PWHL teams. And it was such a crazy process and something that was completely new to us. We've never experienced free agency. So trying to go through that process, everything happened really, really quickly. But, whenever I spoke to Gina, who is the GM of the Toronto team, she sold me. She did an excellent job at conveying her vision and what she saw for the franchise and where she saw me fitting in. And so it was a pretty easy yes for me.
We were talking about before you came on, will you have any input being a star player and one of the signings for the team in the name of the team?
I think that those conversations have already happened. I know that there are a lot of legalities that go into it, but if they ask my input, I would definitely be willing to give it.
Yeah, okay, absolutely.
Yeah, let's. What do you got for us? You got anything in mind? What can we attribute to Sarah Nurse?
I don't know if I could break the story today. I don't know if the league would be very thrilled about that.
Okay, all right,
fair enough.
Yeah. I like it.
Sarah, congratulations! This is awesome news for all of you guys.
Thank you.
What is the most important thing for this to work? Is it a partnership? Just I know you've done a bunch of commercials, and I could see you as a person that says, "I'll do this, but we're going to do it properly and we're going to do it right." So as far as the league goes, how does it work? What's the most important thing where it's done properly and everything clicks?
I think ultimately we have to have an impact in our markets, and we really have to have obviously a huge community aspect, but we also have to put the best product available, not only on the ice, but from a fan experience. We need to make women's hockey, we need to make the PWHL. Sorry, we've had so many letters in the last year. We need to make it as accessible as possible. We need to make it pretty easy to be a women's hockey fan. And so on the ice, that's our job. That is being in the gym every day. That's strategizing. That's video. That is working on our craft. But beyond that, from a league perspective and each individual team's marketing and communications, like when fans are in the building, we need to make it an absolutely incredible experience and an experience that you may not get at any other professional sporting event.
We're chatting with Sarah Nurse, who is one of 3 signees by the Toronto team for the PWHL. Renata Fast, Blair Turnbull, the other 2 here in Toronto. And there's already been reports that yourself, the other players were possibly offered different contracts, different teams, other teams were calling. I'm sure that was happening. Why did you land on Toronto? You mentioned how excited you are to be in Toronto. Obviously, you're from the area, but there's 6 teams, multiple teams I'm sure called and were willing to pay you. Why was it that Toronto was the fit for you?
Yeah, I thought it was really important. As I mentioned, just free agency being a new process, I really wanted to lean into the experience, and I was honestly curious. There were some GMs that I had never met before, and so I was curious just to see their visions and what they saw, where they saw me fitting in. And when it came to Toronto, I was able to speak with Gina Kingsbury, who I was very familiar with, being with Hockey Canada. But where she saw me fitting into the franchise, I just believed that I would have the biggest impact, not only on the ice, off the ice, but in the community in Toronto. And I really, really believed that. And I was very honored when she offered me a spot, because I know that it's a highly coveted place to play. I know that a lot of girls want to play in Toronto, and so the fact that I was offered one of the spots, I was incredibly humbled, and I definitely know that it's the right fit for me.
Did you have a chance, or have you had a chance to chat with Brian Burke, who's the executive director of the PWHL Players Association?
Yeah, so I'm actually part of the interim executive board as we head into our inaugural season. So I've been able to have many conversations with Burke, and again, I can't even believe and express how excited I am to be able to work with him. When we called to give him the job, it was like complete raw emotion, and I think a full circle moment for him, because he's been such a huge supporter of the women's game for so many years. And so when he accepted our job offer to be the executive director, we couldn't be more excited. And I know he's willing to go to bat for us, and he's ready. And we've had many, many conversations about where we want to go, where we see everything going. And so he's a force to be reckoned with, that's for sure. We're
chatting with Sarah Nurse. Again, the PWHL will launch in January. Well, it's already launched, but it will begin in January. And you're looking at a 24-game schedule to start 6 teams: Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, Boston, New York, Minneapolis. The building up of rivalries, we know that it's likely going to be there based on geography alone between Toronto, Ottawa, and Montreal. But how important do you think that will be in terms of growing it as well? You mentioned marketing, you mentioned being on the same page, creating an atmosphere once you're in the rink. But there's no history yet because the league is just launching at this point. How imperative is that to basically gain some legs and do so quickly, and possibly specifically with Toronto, Ottawa, and Montreal?
Yeah, I think there is some history just with the cities in general. I know us as players, I played in Toronto a few years back, and we don't like Montreal.
Right.
So I wouldn't be surprised if that carries on into the PWHL for sure. But I mean, that's crucial. Rivalries are crucial. That's how you build excitement and build buzz. And we've obviously seen it with Canada and the USA when we go to battle with each other. And so I definitely think having those storylines and having those rivalries and having those heated and intense games are going to be vital to our growth.
How do you get a hate on for Marie-Philippe Poulin? It seems like she's such an awesome player.
You've obviously never played against her. She's so good.
I know, but you guys have been teammates so many times, and she's so awesome, and she's such an awesome player, and she scored so many big goals. I just can't imagine you getting a hate on for her.
Yeah, she is the biggest sweetheart you will ever meet. And I have had the pleasure of being her teammate and on the receiving end when she scores those really big goals. But I've also been on the end where my team loses, and I hate that. So we do everything to shut her down. Not that it's possible all the time. Maybe slow her down instead of shut her down. But she's such a sweetheart. And obviously, probably the best women's hockey player to ever play the game. And so I'm excited to get the opportunity to continue to build this league with her.
Well, and yourself, Marie, among others, you guys have really built your profiles on the international level, and I've noticed just reading, through some of the quotes over the last couple of weeks, where it seems to be understood with the PWHL the importance of continuing that. The Olympic Games, the World Championships, all those, the Summit Series, all that kind of stuff. How much of the promotion, though, has to take place at that level? In other words, when you get to the Olympics, when you get to the World Championships, and yes, your teammates at that point, but if you're competitors when it comes to the pro league, like how much promotion do you think can take place at that level, and how important is it possibly to continue to promote the league when you're actually wearing a Canadian jersey as opposed to a Toronto jersey?
I think it all flows together because, we've really been able to see it when we watch, the men compete internationally, and hopefully we'll get to see them compete even more. But as you're watching the game, as you're watching the guys battle Team Canada against, Team Finland, whatever it is, they speak about Connor McDavid and what he's done in Edmonton. So that promotion of the league almost comes naturally. And you get people who may only tune into Canada-US and they see a player they like and they're like, oh, who's this girl? Where does she play? What does she do? And then you kind of get that camaraderie and you get that fandom that way because you get people tuning in to basically watch their national team and watch with a lot of pride. But when you connect with players, see a player that you like, that's how you really build that fandom.
Well, again, it's really, really cool news the last couple of weeks, and it's just getting started with signings throughout the league. The draft is upcoming, free agency's upcoming, and before you know it, the puck will be dropping in January. So congrats on locking in this deal in Toronto. Good luck with everything, Sarah, and we'll do this again down the road.
Thanks, guys. Have a great rest of your night.
You too. There's Sarah Nurse. Yeah, they gotta reveal the team names at some point. They're still gonna reveal kind of where they're gonna play. I think they're trying to work things out with junior teams, with collegiate teams, with the American Hockey League, possibly the NHL.
Got to be a lot of crossover.
There has to be.
I'm sure there's a lot. It's with Burke involved. Like I think there is. Having him be so long in the National Hockey League, relationships, all of the things that he stands for. He's a passionate guy. I think he's gonna make a lot of noise, as Sarah said. Like it's. He's going to be a guy that's going to be front and center and want to be boisterous and want to shine a light on this league.
He's a mover and a shaker.
Yeah, exactly.
Burke will make things happen.
I think there's going to be a lot of crossover. I'm not sure how that looks, though. That's what's interesting.
No, I'm not sure either. And listen, the league has got to stand on its own feet, like for it to work long term. And I think everyone understands that. There was all this infighting within the women's game with two separate leagues, and you had to consolidate. I think 6 teams is a perfect start. You've got an original 6 here. You've got big hockey markets all in the Northeast outside of Minneapolis, which isn't far. And that's what you got to thrive on. You got to thrive on big hockey markets, best players playing. And, it's going to be competitive. And now, like, we're talking money now. We're talking real money. And you're talking about trying to build this up. And these are going to be trailblazers. Like whoever's in the league and whoever the faces of the league, and Sarah Nurse is going to be one of them, it's a big responsibility.
It is.
Like it's a big responsibility for them to continue to grow the game, grow the professional level of it, and hopefully it explodes. But we'll see. Yeah. But I think it's a great start for Toronto. I think having Sarah Nurse here is big. I think Renata Fast being here as well is really, really cool.
Yeah.
And Blair Turnbull is also she's a big part of the national team's history as well.
And it's a big market here.
Yes.
So you need to find that fan base that is loyal. We've talked about this. Like, you know what? There's a lot of lip service that people say, yeah, it's got to happen. Those have to be the same people that are paying to go and watch nightly.
Right. And listen, you got to carve out a niche. It's not that you don't need 100 million people around the world, but you need committed fans that will show up, buy tickets.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You got to have people in the seats, and eventually,
they
I'm sure
have to figure out the way to do that, Hayes, because everybody talks about different markets, and people talk about the Argos a lot, trying to draw, and everybody comes up with different theories. Oh, this is a Leaf town. You know what I mean? Like, they got to figure out the way to do it to get people in to watch.
But this city's big enough to house it.
Absolutely, it can.
I went to an Argos game This is 2 Fridays
You were on
ago.
TV. I got a bunch of text messages saying, look at Noodles. He's at the Stamps game. The Stamps were in town, right?
Yeah, it was Argo Stamps.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Wow.
I just bought tickets on like Vivid.com or whatever it is,
Pretty good
Ticketmaster.
seats. I saw you out there. You were right in the middle of everything.
I got a slight upgrade.
Oh, did you?
So we were just sitting there, and the usher like waves me, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to sit down here?" I'm like, I'll take those seats.
Yeah.
And then we were like in the VIP
Yeah,
section.
you guys
It was
were
pretty-
like rocking. You were in a good section.
It was a great game, though.
Oh,
Like,
and BMO Field's amazing.
you know
You're
what?
telling me you and Steph went to the
My
Stamps?
son. So my son turned 6, July 28th. The 2 things he wanted was a Blue Jays game and an Argos game. So we went to the Blue Jays game. That was I messaged you guys from there.
Yeah, you were down
Ohtani
there.
was hitting.
Yep.
It was great. Just kind of took it all in and had good seats. And then we got Argos tickets. And I didn't want to reach out to anybody at TSN and be
Yeah.
like, we literally just bought tickets, went down. Now, here's where I struggled, and I was a bit of an idiot about it. I didn't realize the Friday night, the C&E or whatever.
Oh, yeah,
that
it's
thing-
rocking down there.
It was an
bedlam down there. When the
absolute
X is on, it's crazy.
Gong show.
Yeah.
Gong show getting
Gong
into.
show.
It was. I drive up. We gave ourselves 2 hours to get down there because I'm like, I think the C&E's going on.
There was probably a concert at Budweiser Stage.
There
too.
was.
Probably like Chris Stapleton or
Yeah,
something.
like it was. There was a concert, the C&E, and an Argos game. So
Yeah.
it was bedlam. Try finding a
Noodles.
parking spot.
Why didn't you just do what the new trend around the city is?
What's that?
I have seen at least a dozen 50-year-old men with mediocre pro boilers
Yeah.
and skullets driving around on scooters that go 80 kilometers an hour with no helmet on.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Have
too.
you guys put eyes on this act?
yeah.
I don't think I've seen that personally, but I want to. Desperately.
Dude, 50-year-old men with boilers are wheeling around downtown area with scooters.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, they go 80 clicks an
All
hour.
those rental, like Bird and
No,
Lime and all of them.
they're owned.
Yeah,
They're
these ones have no
owned.
governor.
And they got no buckets on, and they just don't care. They're wheeling around, and I'm telling you, they go 80 clicks an hour.
I think
do.
that's crazy, man. To be going that pace with no helmet.
Well, and
But if
Thank
you got
you
a
very
style,
much.
if you got a vibe, I guess that's what you're sending out, right? You're down in Liberty Village.
either way, I'm telling you, there was everything. It was people watching.
It's
everywhere.
crazy down there.
But
And
that
on a
Argos
Friday night
game
down at the X
was
be crazy.
awesome. So
yeah, they won that game big, I think, too, right? They definitely beat the Stamps.
no, it was a comeback. It was a returned, a punt return.
Oh, really?
It was
Well,
unbelievable.
they're 9-1. I mean, they're the best team in the
They're
CFL.
unbelievable. And what I loved about it is just there was so much going on. Like there was a lot of turnovers and stuff.
Oh,
like, it was
CFL is wild
It was
action,
a
man.
high event game. Put
Yes.
it that way.
They don't
I
mess
really
around.
enjoyed myself.
CFL doesn't mess around.
Yeah.
Never does. All right, today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. I got Strider on the mound tonight for Atlanta. This guy, what has he got, 230 strikeouts already this year? I'm going over the number against the Cardinals. 8.5 total strikeouts. I'm on the over. Under Astros, Rangers. These offenses are electric. We saw what happened last night. Houston hung 14 on Texas. But Scherzer versus Verlander, I think they both show up tonight. I think it's a duel. I think it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to end like 3-2, 4-2. I got the under in that game. And Orioles money line against the Angels. The Angels can't even get a team photo right. They're definitely not going to beat Baltimore. They had Baltimore money line tonight.
Ohtani, like they had
Just get a body double. Yeah, Ohtani, he's got too much going on. He can't come out for the
busy.
team pick.
He's busy.
Today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. The first inning means as much as the ninth when you bet baseball on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Please play responsibly. Must be 19 plus and physically located in Ontario. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.
Welcome to Jerry's After Dark, where all of your wildest hot takes come to life. Because Jerry's always in the mood for one more, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's creepier and creepier as the years click on here.
Yeah. It doesn't age like fine wine, does it? Jerry's After Dark?
Oh,
It's going the
it's,
opposite way.
As my daughters would say, cringe.
Yeah, very cringe. All right. Well, with that being the case, here we are. Jerry's After Dark. You guys want to have it?
Let's do it.
Yeah. Jerry's calling it right here, right now. Russell Wilson bounces back and is a stud this season. Let's ride. Let's ride.
Well, he's not running for public office, right? That's what Peyton's saying. Stop kissing babies. Stop thinking about Russell Inc. Go out there and be a mean man. Go out there and find a way to win ball games. Jerry's convinced it's going to happen.
I'm 60% on this because I think there's a lot of noise, a lot of people telling him to just go play ball and enough with the nonsense.
Yep.
Maybe the light goes on.
Okay.
I'm going to say 30%. And I'm going to say 30% because I'm going to turn back the clock, and it's Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll sniffed this out.
Yes, he did.
And for a guy like that, he knew what was coming down the pipe. And I'm going to say 30%.
Yeah.
That for him to turn it around and be good this year, do you know how much ground this guy needs to make?
He was awful last year.
Dude, he looked like Nathan Peterman out there.
Yeah, he did. He was terrible.
Dude, it was gross, man.
He was terrible.
He has got so much ground to make up. And sometimes in pro sports, man, ask David Duval how hard it was after being the number one player in the world to hit a fairway. He couldn't hit a fairway.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm low on this too. Like, listen, he has been a stud at points in his career for years.
Right.
So it's not like it's impossible to picture. We've seen it before, but it was so bad last year. I'm not sure Peyton really even wants him to succeed. Peyton might be thinking, I want to move past this guy anyway. 25%. 25% he returns to stud status. All right. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today. Radio, TV, podcast, web. We appreciate that as well. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at
4 p.m.
We'll chat then.